Today on Tricrow Studios, I go over how I set up an SG. Now, just as in the how I set up a Stratocaster video, I'm doing this video somewhat reluctantly. I think it's just because I always say I like a lot more tension in my strings, and some people are a little interested in that, and some people like how I play and they kind of are curious on how I set up my guitar. So it's something that I've been asked to do. For Gibsons, probably about between 20 or 30 people have asked me, so that's not a whole hell of a lot. But I do want to say, this may be different than how you set up your guitar. There's nothing wrong with that. There's definitely better videos out there that'll show you a lot more than I do. I'll just go over a lot of the key points in what I do, and so show you some problems I generally look for and fixes for it. So if I do something that's not normally what you do, don't take offense if I set the guitar up to my liking. So setting up a guitar usually for me is when I first buy it, so there's a lot of playing because, I'm excited because I got a new guitar. This weird thing of being a musician and being excited by a new instrument. Who'da thunk it, eh? But usually I start out looking for some problems that I need to fix. And that's usually, to start with the Gibson, is usually beginning in the pickups. And then I'm going to look at string height, and then the neck itself to make sure that it's not absolutely flat or does not have an up bow or too much of a back bow. And then at that point, I'll probably be looking at string tension, which would be adjusting right here at the stop bar. And then I'll probably do a few other things along the way. But that's generally what a setup entails for me. So this will probably be the only part of the video that I play, and it's just going to be camera audio. But the first thing that I do, I'll be looking at what problems the pickups might be causing, and that's generally pickup height. So we're going to be looking at the neck pickup here. Looks like it's a little too high. So the pole piece might actually interfere when I bend. It's fine around the 12th fret. 15th is fine. 18th is fine. You can kind of hear. That's because the pole piece here for the neck pickup is too high. The next, the bridge pickup, again, usually set really high because a lot of people like a hotter sound. But what you'll find when you're doing a lot of like hard picking or tremolo picking or anything like that on the low E string, you got to be listening for like that little squeak to see if the string is hitting the pole piece. So you can hear ding, 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 ding. You might not be able to hear that through the camera audio. So I already know, because I'm hearing that, and just from a visual inspection, this has got to be lowered and this has got to be lowered. Now these do feel like they are 10 to 46 strings, which is generally what I like to use. However, because the string tension is off, I could actually be wrong. That confuses me a little bit sometimes if it's too light and not enough tension on it. It'll feel like it's a lighter gauge string than it is. So it's at this point, we're going to be looking at string height to see. It looks fine. It doesn't look like, around like the 12th fret and on. It doesn't look like it's, way, way, way too high and then way too thin. But I do want to look at the neck. And I do see, looking down the neck, I love this. A lot of people, and this is maybe a bit of an opinion, but I've always been told, and it seems to work right, if you look down the neck, it shouldn't be flat. It shouldn't be like perfectly flat, and it shouldn't have an up bow. It should have a slight back bow. So the neck should go like this and then down ever so slightly. You don't want to have a giant up bow. That's going to give you some problems. But this is a perfectly flat and straight neck. So I already know that if I start playing here, I'm going to get a little bit of string buzz. The thing with up bows, so if it was bowed up like this, if I'm playing here, you're going to hear a slight buzz, and it's going to feel like it's not fretting out, but almost fretting out. So after I adjust tension, like I'm going to restring this, and after I adjust tension, then I'm going to take a look at the neck again, and I might have to adjust the truss rod. So it's now that I'm going to remove the strings. So once I get the strings off, I just very quickly take the knobs off, and I grab my, this is what, cruise tool or whatever, but it's a multi-tool. So you're going to be using like a 1/2 inch, and I just make sure, like if it's a used guitar, I'll make sure that everything's just hand tight. I don't over tighten it, it's not good for the wood. But just make sure, like especially the input jack or what have you, they're hand tight. You don't have to be crazy tight or anything like that. And then you use the, what is it, 7/16. And again, I'll just go on the tuners and hand tight, not crazy tight. There's no reason to like make indentations in the wood. I also did put a little bit of fretboard conditioner on the neck. It's an ebony board. I wouldn't generally do that, maybe like once or twice, like once a year or once every 2 years if there's a lot of build and grime on here. But you know what, there was a little bit on here, and finger juice is okay if it's my own finger juice, but you know what I mean, I'd like to get rid of that from someone else. So I have now restrung the guitar. I know that this question is going to be asked, and I think it's not very interesting the way that I do it, or out of the ordinary, or maybe it is. But when I restring my guitar, I do 1 wrap, 1 wrap, 1 wrap, 1 wrap, 2 wraps, 2 wraps. That's kind of the way that I've always done it, except when I first started, because these 3 strings here, I don't know what it was, but I tried to get as many freaking wraps in there as possible because it's gonna slip. But over time, you can probably just do single wraps on the last 2. But I don't know. I feel like it's better with that. So I've already lowered both pickups a little bit, and I'm making sure not plugged in, but I'm not touching any of the poles when I'm doing any bending, and you know, if I'm doing this, it's not touching any of the pole pieces. So that's really going to be more of something that I'll do a little bit here and there over time with adjusting to get the proper pickup heights. But it still feels a little plucky. So at this point, I know, and this might bother some people, this is all personal preference, but there are people that will make sure that, you know, your stop bar is like perfectly in line with the tune-o-matic bridge. Some people will do the top wrap. I think it has something to do with sustain. To me, it's not comfortable. So I don't join in on any like sustain arguments or anything like that. It's your own guitar, do it how you want. But me, tension has always been, it's a lot more comfortable for me to play and more enjoyable if there's a lot more tension. So in order to add tension, increase tension, you would lower your stop bar. Now usually I have it quite low down to the body, not all the way, but quite low. But I'm going to just do that incrementally, so I'll lower this, and then I'm going to raise the tune-o-matic, just because I do feel that the string height isn't right. It's a little too low for my liking. So I did start to get the string tension and the string height to an approximate area that I liked. At that point, I did want to start looking at the neck, and again, making sure that it's not perfectly flat, and it has that little bit of a bow going on. It did not, so even with increased tension, that wasn't enough on the neck, so I wanted to give it a little more relief. So what you do at that point, and if you're scared of doing this, don't be, but take it to somebody. You know what I mean? But I only do like small incremental turns and stuff like that. But if you want to give it more relief, so take it from perfectly flat to like a little bit of this, then you want to turn it towards the higher end of your strings. So you're like more trebly strings. I just do like a quick turn in it. So usually it's like in the middle of the nut to the end of the nut, kind of a deal. And then if you want to give it less relief, so actually give it this, then, because if you have too much of a bow, then you want to turn it towards the base end of your string, so your thicker strings. And again, I usually go from like the middle of the nut over, and then I'll start doing more adjustments and stuff like that before adjusting the neck even more. Just give it a little bit of time to actually move. Alright, so that's basically the whole setup. The only thing I'm really leaving out here is when I'm stretching my strings. I tend to do that a lot, just to make sure, because I do a lot of like lead work and stuff like that. I'm not the greatest lead player, but I do a lot of bending, and it kind of sucks when you go and it comes out of tune. So I'll generally be tugging on my strings for a while, just to make sure to get all of the stretchiness out. And then whenever I tune, I always say this, but it's one of those things like when you start doing it, it really helps. But I always tune up to pitch, never down to pitch, and then I tug my strings again, and to see if after tuning again, if they become flat again, then I'm going to tune up the pitch. Usually if I'm tuning a guitar in order to like record or something like that, I'll usually tug on my strings and tune them like 3 times before I start doing any recording, just to make sure I get everything out of there. But anyway, that's the way that I set up my SGs. A lot of it, again, is to do with the tension. So a lot of times as well, my stop bar is a little higher and a little higher on the thicker strings and a little lower to the body on the higher end strings, and I usually do it until I find it comfortable. That's one of the biggest things that for some reason people always leave out in the arguments over guitars and stuff like that. It doesn't matter what guitar you have. Like, I'm titling this SG instead of Gibson SG because it doesn't matter. If you own an Epiphone or a whole bunch of Epiphones, if you like that and that's what's comfortable to you, then you're doing things right. No one else cares, or no one should care. So the argument over what the best guitar is or anything like that, or like sustain values or whatever, all of those arguments should be negated to you if what you're doing is comfortable and not like harming the instrument, kind of a deal. So yeah, again, that's how I set the guitar up to be comfortable for myself. 100% there's going to be way better videos out there, but this is how I do it, and I don't think anyone's really going to watch this video because I find it boring making it. Anyway, thanks for watching.